Hi, I'm Julie and this is Mojo's Crazy Kitchen. I'm trying to show you how to simulate the brick wall. These were the panels I started with inside, and I'm trying to give you a demo on how it was I started. This is just drywall mud, and I seamed everything with this to begin with, and I just kind of smoothed it out a little with my hand or gloves, and I did that with all the seams before I got started. I put a decent amount in there, but then I just kind of smoothed it. Now this isn't going to sit quite as firm as it would on the wall because one, I just have this on a piece of plywood, and so I'm going to have some issues with that, but I'm just going to see what I'm doing there. I'm just kind of trying to cover in the holes and get all that worked out. So you can see now these two panels were two end panels and scrap pieces that I had left, so they butted up pretty well, but these didn't. And as you can see over here, if you don't line them up where the seam's supposed to go, you're gonna have like a really long brick and that stuff. Now for this demonstration purposes, I'm not gonna worry about it, and this is what they should look like. So when you're cutting them, you should make them like that to begin with, so you kind of know. But this was showing, I'm just trying to show you with the scrap pieces I had left. So.
Anytime.
So, and I just hung it up with a nail gun, or I should say we did in the house. Just get a good amount in there, smear it up. You can always sand this if you have a big chunk, but I just try to mush it in there. This way the seam is just a lot less noticeable. All right, and after, oh, I need another one up here. This is the first step. I'm gonna mud it, I'm gonna smear it through. No, you can let it play it. I'm smearing it through, and then I'll let it dry, and I'll show you how to paint probably tomorrow. I'm Julie, back with Mojo's Crazy Kitchen, and this is the second day. Now this is all pretty much dried. Now I didn't take any time to buff any of this out because it's just for demonstration purposes, but you can see if you've got a big area there. Now I have 4 different colors of paint, and I did have the paint swatches at one time to tell you exactly what they are. I took a picture of the top of the can, but I'm going to start out with kind of a clay color here. You want to have 4 different rollers. I have 3 because that's what I have left. And since you mix some of the paint anyway, so you can see I kind of have a terracotta color there, if you can kind of see. Okay. And this roller actually doesn't even fit this thing, but like I said, this is just for demonstration purposes. You can buy the bigger rollers, work the best when you're covering it in a long way. They're also working on my road, so I'm sorry about that, and it's raining out, so I'm trying to get this all done to show you. But just to kind of give you an idea, you don't want to push real hard, but you want to push some because you want to get some coverage there. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of do that in sporadic areas. Doesn't matter if you get it on the gray because you're going to go over that. I tried to do the gray first, and I went back and forth a few different times, and I found that this kind of works the best. So, kind of seeing what I'm doing here, a couple darker places, a couple darker bricks. And it doesn't matter if you mix these colors when they're wet. Sometimes I even mix them a little bit in the paint just to kind of get a little bit different tone. Just kind of get the idea there. All right. Now, it'll take a lot to work with it. That's what I want to tell you, a lot. Okay, now, like I said, for demonstration purposes, I'm switching out a color here. Let's go to the burgundy now. Sometimes you want to let it dry a little in between there too, so you can kind of see this is the kind of burgundy color, if you can see that. And you don't have to have these colors exact. Take a picture of a brick wall that you like, and you like the colors and what you're trying to do. Take a picture of it and bring it in with you and try to match it up that way. That's kind of what I did. So, all right, now, and I'm blending part of this into that and covering up the wall. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. And like I said, it's not right or wrong, but I'm trying to get different tones in there. Do it how you think is appropriate. And this will bring some other shading in. Some you want to go over, some you want to leave regular. And you can see how fast this will kind of come together for the initial colors. Now this is what I'll tell you about the drywall mud areas. You will have to push it in harder because there's deeper divots, I would want to say, than they would be with your regular brick, but that's kind of what you want to do to control some of that. All right. You get the idea there. Switch to a brown color now. This is the brown color, okay? And I grabbed the same brush because I wasn't thinking, but the burgundy and the brown are close enough that it isn't gonna matter. Like I said, you're blending it on the wall the whole time anyway. So you just kind of wanna mess it up. Now, if you want it to look creepy like Halloween, you can take like a spray bottle, spray some black into it and let it drip it down. It'll give it a much creepier effect. Okay. I don't think you can even see the bottom too much down here where I'm working, maybe a little bit. I have to leave the wall really angled today because it's blowing out here too. All right, that was a chunk of something. Now, if you smooth these pieces out, because I did a little bit better because these butted up and these were a little bit heavier. If you smooth them out real well, they're not as hard to paint. But I'm just trying to show you how I did it. You'll see it on my finished product. And the colors will start to kind of blend and you'll get some different tones. That's how I ended up with the different tones. Now this was kind of a highlighted color. It was my least favorite color of the wall. I don't know what you'd call it. More of a corally tone for sure. I ended up liking it more later on, but I like to add some highlights to it. This is all pretty much done with a roller, this part of it. Okay. But you can see how that will start to drag in some of the other tones for the wall, giving you all the different tones that I was trying to achieve with the brick wall. The tedious part will come when you make it try to look like grout lines, because I'm painting over pretty much all of this right now. Alright. Like I said, don't be scared to mix it. That's what it's supposed to do. Kind of blend some stuff in. And once again, I used the same paint roller. I did that a ton. here. I think it's because it's just too light outside here. Okay, see, and it looks very messy to begin with. It's not when you're gonna get the other grout line drawn in there, but that's why you wanna kind of leave it where, like this pattern went the dark way and that kind of thing, and a little bit lighter one, because normal bricks have different looks to them. Now, a lot of them have a really orange tone to it, and if that's what you're looking for, the terracotta color, then you can have that. But there's a lot of different tones on how they change the color of brick. So you get the kind of the idea here. Now I'm just gonna kind of play. Now I'm just gonna kind of play around with it and just kind of paint it on here so you can see what I'm doing. And that was just a big chunk of drywall mud that I just kind of scratched out of there so it wasn't quite so rough. Like I said, I didn't smooth this much just to kind of show you. And this was a really rough edge on this side because they didn't line up. This is another little tip that I always do with the brushes. I usually wrap this in a Walmart bag, okay, so I can use it again the next day. And if I have a bag big enough, which I do, I put the rest of the paint in there and I seal up the end. So that way I don't have to keep rinsing out my brushes every time and doing all that. They'll even stay okay like this, but you just want to make sure you get your paintbrush really wet. That way if I have to come back and touch up anything, I can. And when I'm ready to throw it out, I'm just done. Alright, so I'm Julie, back with Mojo's Crazy Kitchen, and it's raining. It's raining pretty good out here. So, this is the gray kind of color that I have to match with this. I'm going to work on the grout now. Now, I will add a little bit of black to this as time goes on here, just a pinch to make a little bit darker grout in some areas than others. First, I'll do it all pretty much one color, and I add this texture paint, it's fine, into it. Add about as much as you think. The more you add, the harder it is to spread. But the more realistic the grout looks. It will also lighten it up a little bit in color, but I just kind of stir it into the paint. Now when I do big areas of like the, like the grout areas that I did on my final wall, I used it real thick in that. Okay. I only use a paintbrush about like this size. And this is why, because this is going to flare out and spread out as time goes on. And I moved this so that I could, so the wind wouldn't blow it over. Trying to set it back up a little more upright. Move this in just a tad more then, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay. And then I just simply paint the grout lines. Don't worry about getting that too perfect, and a lot of times I just kind of smear it over just a little bit. That'll give you a little bit of like it wasn't, you know, real clear on it. Clean, as you say. gotta run back in and get some paint, black paint to put in here. Okay, I just put just a little bit of black paint in there. Now, when I decide to where I'm gonna put this, I mix this in. You could also probably put brown or any other color you wanted, or you're just trying to make it a little bit darker. Alright, just a little bit darker. Now, because I want it to make it look like water lines or something ran down, you kind of want to decide where you want to end up. So I'm going to go this pattern with it quick. Let's see, I'll start like up in here. I'll go with that on that one. Put one like over here too. And I usually try to end up with it like running out of something or back into like the wall over that way. But you'll kind of get the idea when you're doing it, what feels funny to you or what doesn't. And if you do more of these things across here. Okay. Now I'm going to get the other colors and we're going to touch it up. And this, you don't want much paint on your brush, just a little bit. And you're going to really just kind of highlight the areas that you want to be lighter in color. This will add a little bit of color to your mortar too. If you don't want that, then go back through it, or don't do it at all, or don't smear the mortar. I mean, it's all kind of your own judgment call here. The paint fairly light on the roller, like I said. You see how it starts to kind of come together then. You can see some of my grays coming off on here. Generally, I'll let it dry just a little bit more, but when you're working on a whole wall too, most of the time, to be quite honest, it's fairly dry by the time you get back to it anyway. All right. And I have it kind of half mixed on one side in there and not on the other, so I can kind of play. And if you look real close at an old brick wall, you'll notice, especially if it's clay, it's kind of orange a little bit in between them. So that isn't such a bad thing, but you can start to see how it develops all these different colors as you're playing with it. Now this area here, I just have entirely too red. But that's because it's smearing, because I'm not letting it dry. And on the seams, you really want to watch for the lines because you don't want them to show up. So really make sure you get those coated pretty well with a solid color so that it doesn't draw your eye to it. They're still going to be there. They're still somewhat being able to be seen, but the more you cover them with paint, the better it goes. And I think that's probably about it for this demonstration purposes, and I'll take a lot more closer pictures inside, but you can kind of see how things were done there. Let me take off my gloves, and I'll take some stills of this. Now, if you want to know how I did the grout lines on the inside, after this all dries, then I just put a chunk of drywall mud on it, smeared it in how I want the mortar or the grout to look like if it was repaired, and then I just paint over top of that. So I hope that gives you an idea of how I did the brick wall. I hope that was enough showing you to get you started on yours. It looks a lot different when it's all finished out and trimmed out than it does outside, but gives you the idea of how I did it. Thanks for watching. And the hallway is done.